Welcome back to the Cork Football Podcast. Went out to Charleville Wednesday night to the Clyda Kilshannig local derby. It was their first meeting in their first team's first meeting since 1994 in Championship. So there was a big crowd at it and it was really anticipated. They're two neighbouring clubs and they're actually neighbouring my own parish as well, even though we're in Musgrave, but both of them are in Avondhu. And they're two clubs I would have followed closely down through the years and gone to a lot of their games. And obviously being in a different division, you're in, there's no rivalry with them, so I would have followed them and supported both of them clubs down through the years. Kilshannig there in the late 80s, I remember they were up senior for a bit, and I was in Coleman's with a guy, God rest him, Barry O'Sullivan, and he was playing with him that time, and we used to go to a lot of their games, and Clyda as well. They used to play, for some reason, they played an awful lot of games in Donaghmore, so we used to see a lot of them games, and they're an unbelievable club. Like, they've been punching above their weight for years, and they're a real template for any club like that, small parish, but they really get everything out of their players. So I went out there Wednesday night anyway, and there he was, and number 7, Paddy Kissan, 46 years of age, still going strong, and what a warrior. And he didn't look one bit out of place there. He was as good as anyone on the field. It was a nervy enough start by both teams. A lot of mistakes. I suppose you'd expect that earlier in the start of the Championship. Kilshannig looked very big around the middle. They started better as well, and they had Clyda's kick out was under a lot of pressure early on when they were going long, and they were trying to go short to the sideline then as well, and that wasn't really working out for them. But as I said, Kilshannig got a lot of possession, but their shooting was disastrous, and they had the wind, but and their shot selection was poor as well. They weren't, like, some of the shots they were going for weren't really on, and they were very dominant, and like they should have been trying to get a bit closer to goal. But Clyda, as they always do, they just make the most of the opportunities they have, and they were against the wind and they started taking on the points. Conor Corbett looked very dangerous, got through a few times. He was tackled one stage there by number 6 for Kilshannig, Colin O'Shea. Great tackle, as good a tackle as you'd ever see. But Corbett was very dangerous. Clyda were dominating. That was kind of the pattern of the first half. It was Kilshannig going up, maybe scoring 1 and 4, and Clyda coming down and taking their chance. And that was kind of, Clyda were 5-3 up then, and they were dominating. They started to get on top, and they kind of weathered the Kilshannig storm. They got a great goal then. Their number 4, Niall Burke, he came up through the middle, and he gave a great pass over the top to Corbett running onto it, and Corbett buried it. But he got injured in the just after he kicking the ball, he planted his foot, and it kind of, you could see straight away that he kind of he winced, and he went down injured inside the square, and there was a long delay then, and the ref wanted them to move him over to the sideline and to restart the game, which was fair enough. But what happened then was Clyda got cut for a breach then, which I thought was very unfair looking at it, because like Corbett was on the sideline. He was actually on sitting on the line. I think they were strapping him or something like that, and he wasn't counted as the one of the 3. So, like, fair enough, I understand the rule is there for the 3, but I thought that was very much against the spirit of the rule, because they hadn't brought on a player for him, and just because he had been moved to the sideline, he wasn't counted as one of the 3 up. And, we'd give you out about soccer there and all that. But, in fairness to the soccer crowd, if there is someone injured, the opposition don't take advantage of it. And it's had to drift. I was annoyed with that now, actually. And I wasn't supporting the other team, but I thought that was, I was annoyed with it, about it. Kilshannig get a goal then shortly after that. They got a 2-point from the breach, and they got a goal after that, and it was level coming up to half time, and Corbett got a point fairly close in free, and Clyda went in at half time, a point up. So second half then, Kilshannig bring on Ian O'Hanlon and Bill Curtin, and you could see them two guys, like they'd been kind of regulars for them there with the last couple of years, and they started to make a difference straight away. But again, that was just initially, but Clyda kind of got to grips with that, and they started playing well. They got a 45 that put them 2 up. Corbett took a free then from well outside the arc, a 2-point free, and that put them 4 up, and they were looking good. It was kind of score then after that, and the same with Kilshannig. They were very wasteful. They were Hanlon and Curtin were making a difference, but Clyda were still kind of comfortable. Kissan was orchestrating the defence from kind of centre back, and as Clyda do, they were patient in attack. They were keeping Kilshannig kind of to long range efforts, and it was kind of it just looked like that you could see that Clyda were kind of more accustomed to playing at that higher grade, and it was kind of muscle memory. Kilshannig were doing all the running and the attacking, but it was Clyda just seemed to be just way more efficient, and they actually had a very good goal chance in another stage. They got a long ball in, great catch inside, and I think the goalkeeper parried it onto the crossbar. But then Kilshannig started. Kilshannig brought on 5 subs. Clyda only brought on 2, and you could see that making a difference. Clyda started to tire. The game was a tough, hard-hitting game. Warm conditions. Ground was very hard. There were big hits going in. The ref, in fairness to him, he was letting that side of it flow. Made a couple of poor decisions now that were vital at certain times, but for both sides. But I thought he was poorish. But Clyda it was 1-11 apiece then, and Clyda got caught badly over on the far sideline. They kept persisting to trying to get the ball out, down out the sideline from the kind of their cornerback, wing back area, and I think 3 times they tried to go up, and they should have just worked it across the back, and it cost them a score, and that was a kind of a big blow to them at that stage. But in fairness, they got a second wind again, and they started dominating the midfield, breaking ball especially, and Kissan was doing very well, cleaning up on the breaks, and they got very good goal. They just had the overlap, man through, spotted another man across the square and put it across them, and it was just palmed it in. Very well worked goal. But again, it was kind of the same thing. The 2 goals Clyda got, Kilshannig responded almost immediately, and that was the difference. I think if Clyda could have weathered the responses, I think they'd probably have won the game. But the second Kilshannig goal was a killer, because it just, Clyda started to looked very tired then, and the subs really started to make a difference for Kilshannig, and Kilshannig with a point up, and Clyda were out on their feet. They couldn't really muster any kind of an attempt for an equaliser, and it was Kilshannig got a second, but to go 2 up then, and it was kind of one-way traffic really. But so it was a good game, very entertaining game. I suppose another thing I'd be going to these games is, was there any you'd be hoping that you might see someone that you think that might be a red jersey contender? I didn't. Corbett was very dangerous, looked very good until he got injured. look, I suppose Clyda, the fact they only brought on 2 subs shows that they are struggling for numbers. They didn't. They only used 2 subs, so they were. That's why Corbett stayed on. No, whether we subsequently we have to find out that it's a cruciate injury. I think that's his 3rd one, and it's disastrous for Clyda, and it's disastrous for Cork as well, and for himself. Like he's 24 this year now. He's that's a tough road, a 3rd cruciate, and just mentally for the young fella, because he's only a young fella really, like, and for his parents, and like it just hold. I happen to have first-hand knowledge of a similar scenario in another sport, and it basically when they're injured like that, repeated injury, mentally it's very tough, and it just sucks the life out of them. And it's just they start questioning, and as parents you'd start questioning, is it all worth it? Because their whole life is on hold, and it's very, very difficult scenario to be in. But look, hopefully he'll come back from it, but it's going to be very difficult, and it's to get the confidence back in the knee, which is tough. So I don't know. Look, I obviously we wish him all the best, but I'll come back to it again in another aspect there later on. So it was on to Carrick then last night. Another big crowd there for Clan and Knocknagree. Knocknagree were kind of highly fancied now coming into this, and there are a lot of people's outside bet for the overall championship, and kind of worthy kind of favourites, because they were very impressive against Castlehaven, unlucky to lose it. But and it is going to be a tough group, because you've Ballincollig, Castlehaven, Knocknagree and Clan, and 2 of them are going to be eliminated. So that is a tough group. But Knocknagree, they had the wind in the first half. They were playing down towards the dressing room in Carrick, and that is the scoring goals there always. And I just thought they actually lost the game in the first 10 minutes. Instead of, they had loads of possession, they were attacking very strongly, and instead of clipping balls over the bar, they were trying to get in on goal, and it didn't come off from. They hit the crossbar once, all right, but I just thought they were forcing things. They should have been taking their handy points. They were I thought, like, Owen McSweeney there and Michael McSweeney, they went for a couple of 2-pointers, weren't striking the ball cleanly. Couple of bad wides, didn't make. Mark White was in goal. He actually caught a few of them on the crossbar. I just think that they were too over eager to make the wind, and that advantage down towards the dressing room count. Like they actually could have had 2-10 on the board after 15 minutes, but instead they were actually losing. Well, I think they were down 3-2, and then they went up 5-3. That was kind of midway through the first half, and you could see their confidence was kind of going. It kind of knocked the stuffing out of them. And Clan then, in contrast, were very efficient and playing up towards the upper goals. There's a nice fall down that field and against the wind, and they were clipping away their points and very accurate any chance they had. Goff, Daly, and David Kerryman there playing number 11 with him, Darragh O'Shea. They were highly efficient, and they looked very good. And Doyle actually made a couple of good saves as well. They could have actually had a goal or 2, and it was looking very ominous for Knocknagree. You know, I think they were down 9-8 at half time. Daniel O'Mahony didn't look right. I didn't really take any notice of him early on, but what I did notice is he wasn't coming forward. So he must have been carrying the injury into the game. He wasn't against the Haven there. No, he was coming forward a lot, and he wasn't doing that last night, and that did affect them. But Clan were after getting a grip around the middle of the field as well, and you know, at half time it looked like that there was only going to be one winner, because Clan looked very assured. Second half didn't, and as expected, Clan did power on, and every player that they had, they all looked up to that standard, and very well balanced team, very solid down the middle, and they started pulling away. But in fairness to Knocknagree, they didn't lay down, and they brought it back to 4 points, and there was a kind of a spell that you could say this could go down to the wire, and Daniel O'Mahony came up the field, stormed up the field, and he just got completely taken out of it by O'Shea, the Kerry man, and he got a fair belt now. He was down for a while, and big hit, but your man got a black card anyway, and that it was no advantage to Knocknagree, because I don't think O'Mahony was any more good after that, and instead Clan dug very deep, and they looked like they had the 15 against 14, and they got a goal in to seal it, and they saw it out pretty comfortably. Knocknagree got a penalty towards the end, all right, and it was saved, but it never really looked like that they were going to win it, once Clan got to grips with them again, and Knocknagree will be very disappointed. I just thought they were very naive, very surprised that with the way they approached it. They started very well. They had loads of possession, but just very rash in possession. They were taking shots. I don't know. It was just they looked like a crowd now that they just thought, oh, we have the wind, and we need to make hay. And their main men didn't really fire. Daniel O'Mahony, fair enough, he was injured, but the two McSweeneys weren't. They had kind of flashes of, they had flashes during the game. Michael McSweeney, he started well, very good first quarter, but he was kind of anonymous after that. But and another guy then, their number 5, Garrod Looney, I had high hopes for him, but he was pretty anonymous as well. No, he was, as far as I can know, he was picking up Conor Daly, and they kind of cancelled each other out. But I think they lacked any kind of go forward momentum that he usually give them. But Clan were impressive. I think they have quality all over the field. You couldn't say that they have any position there that they're carrying anyone. Every one of their players, they're all contributing. Clancy and Shanley there in the middle, and your man O'Shea centre forward, and Daly and Goff up front. They're very dangerous, and Clan are definitely contenders after last night. I just think the one thing that they are lacking is a kind of an out and out rangy midfielder like Shanley, and is playing midfield from. He's not a midfielder. He's with a fella in Ridgeway, a good decent operator, and worked very hard. But you put a Colm O'Callaghan or a Sean Walsh or an Ian Maguire into that Clan team, and they become a different animal completely. I'd nearly bank that they'd win the county if they had a good inter-county standard rangy midfielder. But as for Cork prospects, then definitely Conor Daly and Goff, they look very assured, and they will have to come into contention there for the coming season. But and I do not look. I don't really hurt them, but I was disappointed with Michael McSweeney after the first quarter. I thought he really and Knocknagree really needed him, but he wasn't really showing at all. Both keepers were excellent. White was outstanding. Caught a couple of balls there on the crossbar, and his kickouts were good. Came out the field a few times with ball as well. Doyle was very good as well. Made a couple of very good saves, and his kickouts we know he have a good kickout, but it'll be an interesting one now. Whoever it will be, obviously everyone is looking forward to the Clan and the Haven. That clash, I don't know, is that a fortnight's time or 3 weeks' time? But so that should be interesting, that group now. But so that's that. I suppose I'll have to give some bit of a spiel on the All-Ireland final. To be no surprise to anyone, I won't be shedding too many tears for our neighbours. But there'll probably be plenty of soul searching across the county bones over the winter. But I suppose when you just stand back and look at them, as we do have to look at them a lot, unfortunately, but they won 5 minors in a row between 2013 and 2018. And I suppose you could say that they have 3 players there. They're generational players, the 2 Cliffords and Shawnee Shea. And they're all, so you've a cohort there between ages of 25 and 30 in their prime. And I suppose by Kerry's standards, they've only 2 All-Irelands to show for it. And my own theory on it is, I actually think, and they always get cross when you say this, and you always know then that you're onto something. I think the Dublin 6 in a row, I think it knocked the stuffing out of them. It really threw them out of kilter. They have their 39 All-Irelands and all the past glories, but I just think all that went down the Swanee when Dublin did the 6 in a row, and shared the Dublin players, the Kilkennys and these fellas. They got their 9 All-Ireland medals, and there's sometimes there it comes out. I'd listen to the football pod there now on News Talk with Paddy Andrews and James O'Donoghue, and they'd often kind of get there'd be a bit of to and fro between the Dublin and Kerry kind of camps. But anytime Paddy Andrews wants to shut your man up, all he has to do is mention the 6 in a row, and your man is put back in his box fairly soundly. But that'd be my own theory anyway, that has knocked something out of their aura, that happening. And I think, and I firmly believe that they can be got at if you go after them. I think if you try to stay with them, it gives you a chance, as we saw this year now with Dublin and Tyrone. And before the Munster final, I thought that our thing was just to stay with them. But I think if you really go after them like the Dubs used to, and Mayo did this year, they really don't like it. And if you get a ref in that's not genuflecting to them, they're really in trouble. And the ref was, I thought he had a good game on Sunday. He didn't give Kerry anything marginal, but you see, I listened back to the game on Radio Kerry on Sunday night for my sins, but I just wanted to hear the way they took it. But Jesus, they gave the ref an awful lambasting, because they expect the marginal decisions to go their way. And it's nearly worth listening to. Like Ambrose, I don't know, and he must have said 2 or 3 times that we won't be criticising the ref here, and then he'd go into a 30-second tirade criticising the ref. But there's kind of no self-awareness with him, and it's totally one-way traffic. But look, anyway, you have to give Mayo great credit. And I suppose a few people have said that we were close to Mayo there, and we probably could have beaten them, but I don't think we'd have beaten Kerry on Sunday. We might have given them a game, but and the reason we wouldn't have beat them, because Mayo never stopped punching. No matter what Kerry threw at him, Kerry went into the big lead. They had their comeback. Mayo had their misses, their balls after the usual Mayo stuff, but they never stopped doing what they were doing. They never went into their shell, and I thought that's what saw them over the line. They just kept hammering away, and to see where it brought them in the end. And I think that was the key to it. And I think anyone looking at that Sunday and wanting to know what way direction football is travelling, I was saying a few weeks ago there that about that the Gaelic football train is leaving the station, and I actually don't think we're on it. I don't even think we realise that the train is moving. I think the new game is totally about adventure, bravery, energy, innovation, and I think that all suits introducing young players and fresh ideas. Um, but unfortunately, our whole setup is geared towards the old rules. Kind of, I still think we think that Jim Gavin and Dublin are the template. And they were very good at what they did, but they had unbelievable players. And when they wanted to go after you, they could. But they had structure as well. But the rules, you had to have structure within the old rules. But I think all our setup is geared towards conservatism, kind of structure, rigidity, and just playing the percentages all the time. And another thing that does, it always favours the established long-serving player who knows the system, and compared to the young fella trying to break in. And we can see that there with the David Buckleys and these fellas, and Derek Cashmans and another few, the last couple of years, that they're just finding it hard to break in because, the player that's there a while will get the nod because he knows all the moves and all that. So, and I think that I suspect there's a kind of a dynamic in the Cork setup at the moment between the established players and the management. I think it's a bit cozy. I think there's a kind of a mutual kind of thing that if we'll stay, you'll stay. Do you know, that kind of way? It's kind of no one wants to rock the boat, and it's a kind of it's fine if that's what you want. You want to be an inter-county player and stay on the panel, but I don't think it's going to get us anywhere. But I think Cork football is at a huge crossroads at the moment, and we have a choice. We can embrace the way the game is heading. You can see, look, with young adventurous coaches now, like obviously Andy Moran there, but you had your man Mark McHugh there, a ball of energy there that was with Westmeath this year, and you just compare to what we have, it's it's chalk and cheese. And I think, look, John Cleary is the only man who can. He has this decision in his hands. Kevin Walsh has been the Cork coach for the last 4 or 5 years, even though you probably wouldn't know it because he never faces the media. He operates in the background, but from what I hear, he has almost total control over the whole thing. And you can see what he brings, and you can see what he brought to Sligo and Galway when he was over him. And definitely Galway people would tell you that they were delighted to see the back of him because it just was complete and utter turgid style and negativity and kind of defensive. But like Mayo had 2 18-year-olds playing there Sunday, and they wouldn't get a look into in our setup. It wouldn't even be contemplated. Like, we've just won a minor All Ireland, and our under 20s beat the eventual winners Kerry this year, and could have knocked them out in Tralee. We've some very good players coming through, and we have some very good young players, that have broken onto the panel. And I think that we need a setup that can give them the opportunities. Like, just reading a lot in the last few days there that like the thing with Mayo was that it was just that no one was afraid to have a shot. If you had earned the right to be in the position to take the shot, you took the shot. And like, it was just, and we're not doing that. You can see that our guys, it's certain guys can shoot, other guys can't, and I think that we're just too rigid. And I think, I think the greatest thing John Cleary could do now for Cork football is to go after a young, energetic coach from outside the county. Like, obviously Kevin Walsh isn't coming down for nothing, and whatever whatever we're paying him, I think we should put that towards going after a young, energetic coach. I was actually talking to someone there recently, and they mentioned that would the likes of Desi Farrell, be the former Dublin coach, be a good assistant coach to John Cleary? And I wouldn't like to see it, because I thought he was dour and boring. He doesn't bring any energy. We don't need someone like that. I think we have that already. I think we should take a chance in going after a kind of, and actually when I heard that, we started talking about, it is actually a recently retired Dublin player we should be going after, and a fella I always had fierce time for was that James McCarthy there that played with Dublin. I always thought he was bursting with energy, and I think the likes of him now, if you could get him on board, he knows how to win. He's and most importantly then, he knows and he loves to beat Kerry, which down here is very important, and I think it'd be a huge shot in the arm that he'd bring to us. Like, you can imagine now the belief that he'd give young players, that the way he'd be able to bring them into a squad, and the likes of the young Miskalas there now, and Sheedy and these fellas like that. Instead of them, like our guys they'll have to head back in next November and facing Kevin Walsh again. And look, I don't want to be hard on the man. He's done well for us, but he just doesn't inspire energy, and the new game is all about energy. And like, I suppose you could see there with Ben O'Connor with the hurlers there at the start of the year. I know the year didn't pan out the way he wanted, but I thought straight away he gave that bit of boldness, a bit of energy to the whole thing. And I think that like someone like that, James McCarthy now, would be something like that. And I think he'd come out, he'd face the media, and he wouldn't be hiding behind John Cleary and giving kind of formulaic interviews about, using every cliche in the book. I think we need to put ourselves out there and just stick our chest out and go for it. And I think we need a figurehead that can kind of lead and inspire young players. But and I think we're at a juncture. I think that if we don't do something like this, something radical, I think we'll be left behind. So look, that's just a bit of food for thought. Just congratulations to Mayo again, and and look, before I sign off, unfortunately I'm having to do this a bit too often recently. We lost another former teammate here in Dunamore last week, Kyle O'Hanlon. Young fella, just in his early 40s, and I suppose just I would just do go about describing it is when you're playing adult, kind of go through 3 stages. You would have your early years when you're taking your stride, and it's a bit more serious in 25 to 30 years of age, and then you were winding down years, and in those years you begin to take kind of a more interest in the young fellas that are coming through from underage, and you'd feel a bit more responsibility to kind of encourage them and look out for them. And Cahill would have been one of them young fellas that was coming through that time when I was finishing up, and his buddies, they were kind of breaking onto the scene that time, and they were great young fellas and great old crack. And like Cahill himself, I would say, pound for pound, anytime I think of him playing, pound for pound, he was the bravest young fella I ever played with. He wasn't a big young fella, he was pint-sized is how you would describe him, but I just remember you'd kind of wince when you'd watch him go into collisions, because he had no regard for his own safety. It was just complete heart and bravery. But and that's how I'll remember him anyway. So I'd just like to offer my condolences to his wife Veronica and his sons Paddy and Charlie and his family, and may he rest in peace. So I leave it there. Good night and God bless.
When I was a young boy, my father took me into the city to see a marching band. He said, "Son, when you grow up, would you be the savior of the broken, the beaten and the damned. He said, will you defeat them, your demons and all the non-believers, the plans that they have made? Because one day I'll leave you a phantom to lead you in the summer to join the Black Parade.